Imagine life throws a truly unexpected curveball. Maybe a sudden personal challenge or a crushing professional setback. Or even something bigger, like a global crisis that just shakes everything up.
Yeah, those moments when the rug gets pulled out from under you.
Exactly. So, what's your secret weapon for getting back on your feet? I mean, not just surviving it, but actually bouncing back stronger, more capable than before.
Right. And it turns out it's not just about having an iron will or, sheer determination. Those things are powerful, sure.
Mm.
But there's this other force, maybe more pervasive and definitely often overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be deeply rooted in the strength of your connections.
Connections. Okay, so you're saying our relationships are like the foundation for resilience.
Precisely. And what's really fascinating is how deep this goes. It's woven into our biology, our psychology. All the research, from health studies to psychological insights, points to this. Our social connections aren't just nice to have, something you add on later.
Yeah, like a bonus feature.
Right. They are fundamental. They shape our psychological well-being. They even influence our physical health. They're basically the fuel for our resilience.
Okay, so let's talk about resilience. We hear that word everywhere these days. Sometimes it sounds like, being tough, going it alone. Is that what we're talking about in this deep dive, or is it broader? How are we defining resilience here?
That's a really important point. Resilience, in this context, it isn't about being indestructible or just gritting your teeth alone.
Okay.
It's more the capacity to adapt, to recover effectively when you face adversity, big or small.
So less like a wall, more like a spring.
Kind of, or maybe like a really good shock absorber for life's bumps. But here's the twist. Its effectiveness isn't just about your internal strength. It gets a huge boost from the external suspension system you build, your relationships.
Okay, so the connections are the system.
Exactly. The core idea, the really powerful insight, is that social support directly contributes to resilience. It helps people cope with psychological distress, even trauma.
How does it do that, practically?
Well, that sense of community, of belonging. It fights feelings of isolation. It fuels hope, optimism. And studies show it can even lead to better physical health outcomes. It's like a holistic shield.
That makes a lot of sense intuitively. We've all felt that lift from a friend or family member when things are tough. But here's the paradox, right? If connection is so vital, why are we hearing about this epidemic of loneliness, especially now when we're supposedly hyper-connected online?
It absolutely is a paradox.
Yeah.
And it's a massive societal challenge we really need to face.
Yeah.
Because despite the clear benefits of knowing your neighbors, like feeling safer, more trust, just connection, the data shows trust and, friendliness between neighbors in the U.S. has been dropping steadily since the 1950s.
Since the 50s? Wow.
Yeah. It's not just a vague feeling. It's measurable.
Yeah.
Researchers, public health folks, they're sounding the alarm globally.
So what's causing it? Is it just, everyone glued to their phones, TikTok taking over?
That's definitely part of it, a significant part. But the roots, they go deeper.
Okay. Like what?
Well, first, think about our physical environment. How our cities and suburbs are designed. Often it plays this huge, maybe unintentional role.
How so?
Suburbs, for instance. Historically, they came from this desire for privacy, for distance from the perceived chaos of the city. The ideal was your own little bubble.
Right. The detached house, the yard.
Exactly. And that led to design features like everything being car-based. You drive everywhere. Fewer spontaneous chats on the sidewalk.
Sure.
And a real lack of what sociologist Ray Oldenburg called third places,
Third places, like not home, not work.
Yeah, exactly. Like coffee shops, town squares, parks, places where people just naturally gather and bump into each other. Plus, you have things like cul-de-sacs, barriers to through traffic, all designed, maybe without realizing it, in ways that make community building harder.
So the way we build things can actually create these social deserts without even meaning to. That's kind of subtle.
It is subtle, but powerful. Then you layer on those lifestyle pressures, more demands from work, the constant money stress, and the pull of digital entertainment, Netflix, social media. It just eats up our free time, less time for actual face-to-face connection.
It's a combo platter then, design plus lifestyle.
It's a potent mix. It creates what one urbanist called this need to swim upstream. You're not just fighting inconvenient layouts, you're fighting the pull of the screen too.
Swimming upstream, I like that. Because it really does feel like effort sometimes, doesn't it? To build new connections, especially with neighbors, it can feel awkward. Maybe even a bit scary.
Totally. You worry like, am I being weird? Or will they even respond?
Yeah.
It takes putting yourself out there, being a bit vulnerable, even if it feels weird. And that brings us to the next layer. We've talked about external factors, but what about our internal stuff, our psychology?
So how we operate inside affects our connections.
Absolutely. The ways we habitually manage our emotions, they have these surprisingly long-term effects on our relationships.
Yeah.
Which leads us to emotion regulation.
Emotion regulation, okay, like how we handle feelings.
Exactly. Think about how you typically deal with tough emotions. Do you face them, reframe them, or just push them down?
I know there are different ways, probably some healthier than others, right?
Definitely. Research often highlights two key strategies: reappraisal and suppression.
Okay, break those down. Reappraisal.
Reappraisal is basically reinterpreting a situation to change how it feels. So say you're stuck in horrible traffic, really late.
Yeah, boiling mad.
Right. Instead of just fuming, you might reframe it like, okay, this is annoying, but maybe it's a chance to listen to that podcast I like.
Acknowledging chuckle. Maybe this one.
Maybe. It's about shifting perspective, finding a different angle.
Okay, got it. And suppression. That sounds less good.
It often is long term. Suppression is inhibiting the outward expression, bottling it up. Poker face when you're actually furious or sad inside.
Right, holding it all in.
Now, there was this fascinating 4-year study. It really tracked how these two strategies impact social connections over time. The results were pretty striking.
What did they find? What's the superpower?
Well, for reappraisal, the benefits were clear. People who habitually used reappraisal ended up with stronger social connections.
Stronger how?
They were perceived as warmer, they developed closer relationships, and they even had higher sociometric standing, which basically means people liked them more, saw them as more central in their social group.
So reframing doesn't just help you feel better, it makes other people like you more, want to connect with you.
Pretty much. It facilitates building those close bonds. People see you as adaptable, maybe easier to be around when things get tough. It creates this kind of quiet magnetism.
That's genuinely powerful, like a social skill you build internally.
It really is. Now, suppression. Unfortunately, the picture wasn't as positive. Chronic suppression predicted weaker social connections. It actively got in the way of developing close bonds.
Weaker.
Well, interestingly, it might not stop someone from making a decent first impression or even gaining some status, but it hinders the deep stuff, the intimacy.
So you could seem successful or competent, but struggle with real closeness because you're always holding back. That sounds kind of lonely.
It can be. The big takeaway is that how you manage your internal world has these lasting effects on your relationships. It's not just about your personality type, it's about your strategies.
That's a huge insight. So, okay, if strong relationships are partly built on how we regulate emotions, how do those connections then directly help when stress actually hits? Is there like a clear mechanism?
There is, and it's clear and pretty profound. Social support directly impacts mental health by reducing perceived stress.
Perceived stress, not necessarily the stressor itself, but how we feel it.
Exactly. This ties right into Lazarus and Folkman's stress and coping theory. Basically, it says an event feels stressful when you think its demands outweigh your resources to cope. And social support, that's a critical resource. If you perceive you have strong support, events just seem less daunting, more manageable.
Can you give an example, like maybe during a really widespread stressful event, like the pandemic?
Perfect example. A study looked at exactly this during the peak of COVID-19 with Filipino adults.
Okay, what did it show?
It found, unsurprisingly, that social support from family, friends, significant others, it was linked to more positive feelings and less anxiety and depression. More support, less distress.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Right, that makes sense. More support, better mental state. But what about the mechanism, the perceived stress part?
That's the key finding. Support specifically from family and significant others directly decreased their perceived stress. It acted like an immediate buffer. And that reduction in perceived stress was what then led to feeling better. More positive effect, less anxiety and depression. It's a pathway. Support, lower perceived stress, better mental health.
Wow. So the support literally made the stress feel less overwhelming, which then cascaded into feeling better overall.
That's right.
What about friends? You mentioned family and significant others, specifically doing that direct buffering. Did friend support work the same way?
That was an interesting nuance. In that study, during the pandemic restrictions, friend support, while still generally beneficial for well-being, didn't show that same direct stress mediation pathway.
Why might that be?
Well, the researchers speculated it might be because pandemic restrictions made physically interacting with friends harder, Family and partners, people you might live with, could offer that immediate, maybe more intrinsic emotional comfort more readily.
Okay.
Friends are incredibly valuable, offering practical help, advice, different perspectives. But maybe that deep, immediate emotional buffering in a crisis like that relies more on those closer ties. It just suggests different relationships might work through slightly different resilience mechanisms depending on the situation.
It really highlights the different types of support, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And we can break that down. There's
Yeah.
emotional support, that feeling of being loved, cared for, accepted, someone listening without judgment.
Yeah, the comfort stuff.
Then instrumental support, the practical help, resources, guidance, a neighbor bringing food, a colleague helping with a task,
The tangible things.
and informational support, giving advice, feedback, knowledge, a mentor's guidance, family sharing experience. Each one is a different thread in that resilience fabric.
Okay, so we've covered individual resilience, relationships as buffers, even how our own emotions play a role. But let's scale this up. How does this individual stuff impact whole communities, even cities? Does my saying hello to my neighbor actually contribute to something bigger?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
This is where the power really expands. Resilient cities aren't just about infrastructure. They're built on resilient neighborhoods.
And resilient neighborhoods are built on relationships.
Exactly, on those countless individual connections. We need to see neighborhoods not just as places on a map, but as active social units where these vital ties can form.
That feels right. Like if you know people on your street, it just feels different, safer, maybe more alive.
Totally. And that street-level connectedness has real, tangible benefits for the whole community's resilience.
Like what?
First, when neighbors know each other, they talk. They share perspectives. So when the city needs to understand its strengths or weaknesses, you get answers from a variety of viewpoints, not just isolated complaints. That collective insight strengthens advocacy for everyone.
So better information, better decisions for the whole area.
Right. Second, building resilience often means changing things. New policies, different approaches. That needs dialogue, negotiation.
Which can be hard.
It can be very hard. But it's much easier in places with strong social capital, where people trust each other enough to discuss things, even disagree, and work towards a shared vision. Without that trust, everyone just retreats into their own corner.
And nothing collective gets done. Everyone just protects their own patch.
Precisely.
Ah.
Which leads to the third point. Real resilience sometimes requires sacrifice, making trade-offs for the common good. That's only possible when there's a foundation of trust, when people believe others will also contribute, rather than just looking out for themselves and mistrusting outsiders. So you see the interplay. Individual resilience grows in a supportive community, and community strength grows from connected individuals.
It's a cycle. A virtuous one, hopefully.
Exactly.
So what can communities or cities actually do beyond just telling people to be nicer? Are there practical steps?
Oh, definitely. It's way beyond just pleasantries.
Yeah.
It's about intentional design and policy.
Okay, give me some examples.
Cities can allow things like gentle housing density, mixing duplexes or small apartment buildings into single-family areas, more people, closer proximity, more chances for casual encounters,
Right, less sprawl.
making it genuinely easier to walk to local businesses. That corner store, the bakery, they become those accidental third places where you bump into people. Supporting small businesses that act as community hubs, like a bookstore that hosts events or a cafe where people linger. Investing in parks and green spaces, accessible ones, where people can just gather naturally. And even simple things like slowing down cars, narrowing streets in residential areas. It makes walking safer, more pleasant, encourages people to be outside.
Makes eye contact possible again, maybe.
Exactly. And yeah, even encouraging or supporting block parties. These are all tangible ways to weave that social fabric intentionally. The goal is seeing neighborhoods as social units, places where connections can just happen.
This whole deep dive, it really drives home that connection isn't just
Fluff.
nice. It's not fluff. It's fundamental. It's a core driver of our ability to recover, adapt, thrive.
Absolutely. From how we manage our feelings inside, which shapes our bonds, to the actual physical layout of our streets. Strong relationships are the ultimate resource for bouncing back stronger. From anything, really. Personal stuff, work stuff, even big global crises.
It's a powerful realization that reaching out, building trust, showing empathy, it's not just about feeling good. It's actively building your capacity to handle life.
Yeah, it's an investment in your own resilience, your sense of belonging, and ultimately in the strength of your whole community.
So, as you're listening to this, maybe think, what's one small, intentional step you could take this week? Maybe strengthen a connection that feels a bit weak. Or perhaps initiate a new one. right where you are.
Could it be just a simple hello to that neighbor you always see but never speak to?
Or maybe trying to reappraise that frustrating situation at work instead of just bottling it up. Could that be your next little upstream challenge toward building more resilience?
Food for thought.
Definitely. We encourage you to reflect on these ideas and maybe, just maybe, discover some new layers of strength hidden within your own web of connections.